I'm also curious to hear from a manager's perspectives or employer's perspectives, like what are the things that they can do to help someone if one of the team members or multiple of the team members coming say like I'm gonna quit or I'm quitting. So
Sure, of course. Well, first and foremost, you have to understand. Okay, back up. Um, so by the time somebody's coming to you and saying that I'm quitting, right, or I want to quit, they most likely already made up their mind. It's a little too late to do this.
mhm,
And even if you are going to jump in to save this person, understand that you will have to change this person's mindset in order for them to feel successful again. Right. So it's not impossible, but it's also understandable to take that effort.
mhm.
So what I say, you have to have a really good heart-to-heart discussion with this person who wants to leave, whether this person would potentially consider staying and under what conditions, right? What would that actually mean? And is this something you can reasonably do? Can you promise that and can you deliver? Right? Because you can promise anything in that heat of the moment because you're afraid of losing your resource, right? You're afraid of somebody not doing, the job, and so it becomes your problem now, right? So the idea here is that you have to be very honest with yourself, right, and allow this person to be very honest too, is whether or not you can turn this person around and can you get this person back to productivity. So by the time, like I said, somebody already came to them and said, hey, you know what, I want to quit, I'm not happy here, it's usually too late. But if it's not too late, you can ask, hey, like, tell me what happened, tell me where are you, and take actually genuine interest. Don't be like, well, you know what, that's just them. Okay, it's not them. I mean, they're feeling what they're feeling, that's fine, but the environment that they're in also can be very much impacting this, right? So
Mhm.
understand and take responsibility of how you have added to this, right? Or how has the company added to that. Taking responsibility is a big one, right? For everybody, for the companies and for the individuals, right? You take responsibility for yourself and for your actions, this is when you can actually drive change, right?
Mhm.
So have the conversation, right, and say, okay, well, what can be reasonably done to get you to 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 stay, right? And do you really want to stay? What was it that impacted you, right? And you take a look at what the outcomes were. Again, back into this whole thing where thoughts, feelings, actions, result, right? And this person is now at the result level. They're unhappy. This is it. They're quitting is the end result, right? So reverse engineer. So they're feeling something. So ask them, how are they feeling, right? What's going on for you? Like what's happening, right? Like what actions are you taking, like, or not taking? What were you not able to do, right? Ask them with genuine interest and don't feel defensive, right? Because it's actually very easy to get on the defensive because it's kind of a perception of failure. You as a manager, your person's leaving, you failed, right? It's not a failure, or every failure is a learning lesson. So
Mhm.
look at failure from a perspective of a lesson, right? It's for you to learn, absorb, and improve, right? So everything is an experience, positive and negative. Like, think about it like a coin, right? Coin can be, one side or the other side is just it's a coin, right? It has two sides, right? The same thing here, right? There are positives and negatives, right? So, and it's all a learning experience, positive and negative. So you're going to learn and improve. So ask and take a genuine interest. And for a second, leave your ego at home, right? Allow it to sit in the conference room for a minute, right? And you there, as you are, face the employee and ask what's going on. Take genuine interest. What if you like talk to this person as if you weren't their boss, right? Talk to them as if you were their friend, right? And you just wanted to know what happened for them. What was their experience like? Learn from that, right? And I mean, and genuinely ask, hey, you know what in your opinion we can do to turn this around, and is this something we can do? And if the person says no, nothing you can do, but I mean, don't close there, right? Say, and try not to ask yes and no questions. Try to ask open questions,
Right.
right? For example, what would you know what could have happened here for for you to stay?
Mhm.
Brainstorm, allow the person to get in a creative space, right, where they're thinking about what they might want to happen, what they want to do, right? Get them creatively thinking and taking ownership for their success down the road, right? Because whatever they're telling you right now, that is, that's their idea, that's their ownership, right? And then at that point, you have to evaluate, is this something you can move for them now? Is this something you can commit to? And then don't lie. I mean, meaning don't tell them you can do something, and then a month passes by, 2 months pass by, and you just didn't do it. Commit to an action plan, right? And say, okay, you know what? If you allow me to think about this and how we can approach it, unless this is, an exit meeting and the person's like, I'm leaving now, I'd say, hey, I want to think about this, right? I want to come back to you with some, options to see, what we can do, right? I didn't realize that this is how you were feeling, and I'm sorry. By the way, it's totally fine to say you were sorry, right? It doesn't mean that you're weak, right? It just acknowledges you as a person that perhaps you didn't see this coming, right? And it's okay to do that, right? So you're there to be vulnerable with a person. Take away that feedback and think about how you can apply this feedback, and think about it genuinely. Like, what can you reasonably do to change this person's life for the better, right? Okay, so you came up with a plan, you come back to this person and you share with them how they're feeling about what you're proposing. You're asking them, so here's what I have come up with. This is what I can commit to. If we do this, this is what I would want you to do. How do you feel about this? Right? Every step of the way, get the person's commitment. If you're looking to turn them around, you got to get them back engaged, right? Which means they have to feel something here, right? Which means that they need to restructure how they're thinking, right? But they first need to feel that little bit of a spark, right? As you're giving them thoughts, they're thinking things, like they're thinking creatively, and creativity always sparks some kind of a feeling of commitment, right? Help them think creatively where they all of a sudden become part of the solution, right? So as soon as they become part of the solution, right, then you ask for commitment, and see, like, how can you support them through this commitment? And here you are in a kind of new budding partnership, right? There you are, all of a sudden turning this around, right? But you have to follow through on whatever it is that you have committed to, right? If you really want this person to stay and be productive and not just kind of buy time, right, just because you gave them a comp increase to help them stay, right? But you have to commit to whatever it is that you say you're going to do, because otherwise it's just going to be the same situation down the road, and the person's still going to look for a different opportunity, but now they have a higher selling price, right? Now they've just gone up in value, and so next opportunity they're seeking is going to be even higher than this one, so you can't continue trying to catch up, right? The point is that you have to get the person engaged from a creativity standpoint and ownership standpoint.
Yeah.
So, like Daniel Pink talks about in Drive, the, what is it, Autonomy, Mastery, and Purpose, right? Great book, by the way. If you want to motivate your employees, read that. I think that's, a great book for this. So what else? Now, before the person quits, maybe, you're now kind of scratching your head and going, oh my goodness, I don't know if my people are going to leave. And I mean, especially with the recent reports, I think it's on the forefront of everybody's, conversations these days, especially in management meetings, I'm sure. I mean, take a look at where you are, right? I mean, take a look at what it is that you're doing with your employees, engage in conversations, ask them, what makes them tick? Evaluate what actions are they taking. Next time you're doing a performance evaluation, right? That's a result. By the way, by the time you're doing the performance evaluation, that's a result. That was a result of action, a result of feelings, a result of thoughts. So how can you, if you want to change result over here, how the person's performing, reverse engineer this. What do they need to do, right? So how do they need to feel in that new goal? What are they thinking when they're creating this goal? Add an element of creativity to their lives, and they will feel more committed to you and to the purpose.
Yeah, I think you mentioned two really good points. One is the creativity part, like ask open-ended questions, brainstorm together, and like have the creative sparks. I think that's that's not only applicable for thinking about best product solutions for customers, but also for someone's growth, someone's development as well, and for the team culture, etc. And then, yeah, I think it's good to also think about like the current team, current employees, not just the ones that say they're leaving. It's like where are they at? How are they feeling? How can you instill the autonomy and kind of ownership and creativity part in that?
Absolutely. And I mean, honestly, genuine interest is always, it always comes through. So whenever you're having these conversations, don't do this as a check mark, right? Actually listen to what they have to say. And I mean, you probably will get some complaints, right? And that's okay, right? So people also, by the way, they build partnerships on things that are closest to them, right? And if something's not resonating and they can't build partnerships on something's positive, they'll build partnerships on something's negative. So give them something positive to build partnerships on, right? So I would say, most definitely allow them to vent. It's better that they vent to you than they go vent somewhere else, right? Because no, for sure, right? And think about it this way. So they're venting to you, asking them for an opinion, but you're not just asking them for an opinion. You also think about asking for a solution. When you're asking for feedback, right? Like say, hey, you know what, how are things going, right? And they say X, Y, and Z, I'm feeling this and that, right? And you say, okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's understandable that with everything, especially we've gone through, that you would be feeling this way, right? I mean, obviously there are reasons. So, I mean, obviously be interested in what those reasons are. I mean, validate their feelings. By the way, coaching rule number 1, right? Validate people's feelings, right? Normalize it for them, because ultimately, if you want a person to hear you on any level, they need to be feeling heard. Otherwise, defense mechanism is going to kick in and nobody's going to hear anything, right? So acknowledge and validate, right? Acknowledge the person, make them feel heard, and validate them in what they're feeling. Because by the way, whatever they're feeling is absolutely normal, right? It's normal for them based on their experiences. This may not be how you're feeling, and that's okay. Your feelings are built on your experiences, right? So this person's feelings are theirs, and respect that, right? Validate them, understand them. It's okay for them to feel the way they feel, right? They own their feelings, right? And allow them to own their feelings. So, but then, ask them for some creativity, right? Ask them, what can they do? What can they recommend? How can we collectively make them part of the solution? So they're not just, complaining to you about something, but they're also saying how they are going to participate in solving that. Like, for example, so somebody's saying, well, I'm happy with the new working hours, right? Because I can't pick up my kids and whatever, I can't, so say, okay, so what would you propose? What would be an effective way for you to work, right? What would make you productive? Allow them to come up with something that, they allow them to experiment, right? They will come up with you and say, hey, you know what, maybe I'll work, 2 days from home. And then one day, maybe I'll do half day. And another 2 days I will work, from the office to office home, whatever, mixed or something like that. Or I will work in the mornings, from the office, and then the evenings from home, right? So there's some flexibility, right? Give them, 2 creative ideas. And so, but then, establish for them, what do you want them to accomplish in that time, right? So it's not like, they have to be button seat and they're clock watching, right? But it's them, being responsible and grateful for the flexibility that you have allowed, right? And then them utilizing that and being creative and productive. I mean, I think did you hear this? Iceland converted to 36-hour week to only 4 days.
No, is that something new?
80-something% of their population, working population, is converted to a 4-day week.
Oh.
Productivity is apparently booming. I mean, they did a trial, I think in 2019, and they just converted, I think 80-something%. It was in the news. Don't quote me on the percentage, just something high, to working for, 4 days a week. And they're more productive. And because why? Because they now utilizing their time. They know they have shorter periods of time, right? They only have 4 days, not 5, and they need to get things done, right? So they started changing how they communicate, right? So how effective they are and what they're doing, so they're not wasting time, right? So for as long as you're setting the right goals and what needs to be accomplished, and you're there to encourage them, I mean, I think this is great. But I mean, also think about how your team interacts as a whole. So when you're talking about this with your employee, you're not just talking about how it's good for them. Talk about or how it's good for the company. Talk about how it's good for the team as a whole, right? So how is this person going to be interacting with you? How is this person going to be delivering? But how is this person going to be interacting with the team? Because obviously, we're all social creatures. We're human beings, not robots. We do need social interaction. So it does, in fact, drive commitment to the company, right? So the stronger the bond, the longer the tenure, kind of thing, right? So how do you encourage those bond buildings, right? So if this person needs a bit of an adjusted schedule, right? Okay, great. But how can we make sure this person interacts with others and becomes part of the group, right? And doesn't get isolated somehow. So think inclusivity in that, right? Everybody's talking about diversity and inclusion, right? So diversity is easy, right? Inclusion is not. So before you think about diversity, think about inclusion. How are you going to be inclusive when you bring in this diversity? It's about having that open-mindedness. And maybe this is what you do. You start with your own team and look at that inclusivity.
Yeah. I think you mentioned a few very good points. One is to think about, like, as a team, like how everyone interacts and bonds together. I think that's super important part. And then kind of like think about, actually you mentioned the coaching principle, because there are leaders that ask, like, how can I learn to be a good coach? Because leaders are also coaches in some context, not all the time, but in some context. So that's like showing genuine interest and care. I think that's part of that, but also encouraging more creativity and having team members to come up with solutions together. I think these are really good points that everyone can digest and kind of think about. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate Elena, and this is a very helpful conversation. I think the community members of Emotions can benefit a lot from this, and also broader audience. So we really appreciate it. Again, my name is Pianpian. I'm founder and CEO of Emotions, and we just had a chat with Elena, executive coach and global human capital leader. Thank you so much.
Thank you.